All right, and we're rolling. It's the Cloud Custodian community meeting for October 31st, and I don't have any good Halloween jokes or anything, but we can get rolling. Welcome everybody. So just to pick up right away from where we left off last time, I know we talked a little bit about some. There was an issue with ECS tasks. I actually wanted to check on the status of this one because I don't remember where we left off. And Pratyush, I see that you're on. Is this issue resolved now?
I think Kapil sent a PR for this that is kind of caching client credentials. Clients. Okay. Yeah.
That was one that I wanted to talk about anyway, and that was the one we were talking about here. I figured that would be related. Okay. Yeah. So with this one, this came from a couple different issues, and I know Kapil's off for written, but the idea with this one is that we're caching clients and we're trying to reuse what we can and clean up a little bit better so we avoid some memory leaks and probably some credential hammering on. Is that related, Kapil, or no?
Yeah, it's two birds, one stone, and there is no memory leak. To be clear, the original report there was not accurate.
Okay.
It's just that we normally try to create clients in the main thread and then pass it to any worker threads. And in the case of S3, it was a little bit degenerate because we were handing off bucket assembly and like pulling together subdocuments from inside of the thread pool because we would have to potentially construct the client once we discovered the buckets region. And that led to a lot of like transient clients that weren't reused on a regional basis. And so peak memory usage increased. But as soon as you GC, like as soon as Python GC, the memory would get reclaimed. So it wasn't ever actually memory leaked per, whatever it was reported originally. And I've chatted with Dimitro about it. And but while addressing that, it seemed like the simplest thing to do was to have any client creation get cached with a thread locked to allow for any multi-threaded usage, even though ideally we shouldn't have those. But and then flip side, because we were holding the clients that we would then be able to close. The investigation around closing, we used to have like the thread local clear out, I think, as part of policy execution ending, but it's not clear to me that that's actually the case, or if it's just enabled for testing. So like there's an environment variable there. So I've left this PR open. Thank you for the review. I think it still needs some additional testing effectively to be confident on that it's doing what's expected.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds good. So we don't have a memory leak, but we had more memory pressure or higher peak usage than we really need for what we're doing.
We had a peak usage, and potentially this actually introduces well, not a leak, but a held reference in some cases. So I probably going to add some debug statements, or debug logging around the client clear out, just to validate that that's there. It should be fine and safe around cross account usage because we're doing a credential check. There's enough stuff there that I need to go dig through some Git history as well, just to understand why. It used to be that we always reset the cache. It looks like we stopped resetting the cache, so we get better. We could reduce per policy role assumes, I guess, but some of that's a little bit unclear to me. So wanted to take a look at that again.
All right, that sounds good. And you said it needs a little bit more testing, especially in that C79 org. Maybe have role assumes partition. I know you saw a comment from you here that you had some testing set up.
It did. I tried to. There was. I think I put a comment in about like looking for like local session with region, but I didn't actually see any of those. I did go ahead and add that calculation so that if the session has a region name attached and the local client does not, that we use the session region name as part of the cache key for the client. As far as I can tell with C7 and org, like the use of the use of adding the credential hash should handle that, but it's more like wanting to be sure about this before it goes live, and welcome any and all testing. I know Patricia, you'd mentioned you might be able to do some testing, and I talked to some other folks. The other PR author said they could be able to do some testing as well. So I'm going to let this one bake, so it may not get into the November's release, although we'll probably do that next week as KubeCon. There are two custodian presentations on Tuesday, one by me on sort of state of the project, roadmap type of things, and then another one from Boeing on using custodian for Kubernetes policy enforcement, using admission controllers. But so the release will probably be after KubeCon at that point.
All right. Well, cool. I mean, that's good. Thanks for getting this together, because it seems like it's going to fix or help a couple things.
It should. So S3 is the only degenerate case, but it should also, like for S3, it definitely helps significantly. So if you have a lot of S3 policies, it will speed things up and decrease memory usage. The closeout on the socket connection thing, I think that is really tied to just investigating the cleanup behavior, but hopefully it needs a little bit more time to bake. But yes, hopefully this should be a decent win across those issues.
I mean, as I know, when you mentioned S3 being degenerate, I know one of the things that I've seen in the past that seemed like it would be nice to cover is the case where you've got some filter or action on S3 doesn't automatically grab the right regional client, and like going in and tidying up those cases might be nice after this, so we don't have to do those filters like, are we running in the region where the bucket lives? Like it would be nice to not have to filter like that.
Yeah, there's another thing there for S3, particularly being able to either do an include or exclude type of syntax for subdocuments, so that we don't have to always fetch all of them.
Oh, that's true too. In the assembly, you mean?
Yeah, basically parameterizing the assembly. I did initially go down that path, but I decided that it was really best for something separate as a PR.
Sounds good. Thanks. Ryan, you had mentioned that you had an issuer PR to get through. Is that something you want to talk through here?
Yeah, no PR. I created an issue. I can share it.
Sure.
But yeah, I was just hoping to get some feedback. It should be pretty simple. But before I started working on it, it's for the network location filter. So we have a situation where like we have a couple values that mean the same thing, and we're running a bunch of like normalization processes to try to get these to match. So I was hoping to add like a different kind of match where it'd match on multiple values, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I forgot what the existing behavior is.
Yeah, I think right now it just has equal and not equal.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, n type of value sounds reasonable. I think this particular filter may have some organizational specificity to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I was looking at this and I thought, oh yeah, I don't remember how this works either.
Like a tag match on like all the resources to make sure they're like public facing or internal or private, and that the resources match to the security group, which match the network type of thing, or correctly.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay. Cool. So
Thanks,
nothing
guys.
else to add there, just that it would be cool.
Yeah, that's it. I wanted to get the okay, before I
Yeah.
start working on it.
Nice.
Sounds good.
All right. Others. Does any, well, hey, before I just go looking at things that I saw come through that seem relevant, does anybody else have something pressing to bring up? Sunny, welcome also, if you had anything.
Trying to go through a bunch of these Azure ones. They've got, there's a little bit of cleanup on them. There's like, they're I think that org's trying to like get to CIS on Azure, so they're going through a bunch of stuff. It's mostly, most of the reviews so far have been along the lines of like to simplify the names. So like don't have the resource name in the filter and don't suffix the filter name with filter, that type of thing.
Yeah, I did have one thing that came up. The Kinesis Analytics resource with the V1 and V2. I guess would people be in favor of adding a deprecation on with V1 to try to move policies over to V2?
Is V1 reflexive in V2 resources?
So according to the I'll grab a link. The Bodo 3 docs, it says that V2 is like inclusive of both SQL and like Java applications, and V1 is SQL only. It's just that there are some. The V2 resource also includes like a is inclusive of all of the filters that V1 has. And in fact, the V2 resource also includes a subnet filter, which the V1 one doesn't have.
Yeah, I mean, if V2 is inclusive of V1 resources, then we could probably use the, I don't know if the deprecation framework supports it on our resource itself, but we could add a deprecation marker on it and see how that works for now.
Yeah, the shape of the resource metadata is different. So the existing like value filters would need to be. I mean, we did.
Yeah, we're not translating. We're just marking it as deprecated and be like, hey, move your policy over, type of thing. Like it doesn't really have any real carry costs for us. It's already written. It's like more about just getting them to use something which has more expansive filtering.
Yeah, I think that's true. So, so you were saying that we have deprecation for like filters and actions, but not for full resources. Then
let's see. I'm just looking up the deprecation. I believe it include resource, but no, it does not include a resource.
okay, yeah, I mean it's all right. It's good to know. I haven't taken a look at what we would have to do to support that.
Yeah, it doesn't look like. It looks like deprecation. Yeah, we'd have to add some support for it to be deprecated. I mean, for right now, if you want to do the simple thing, I would just add it to the doc string, the class doc string.
Sure.
And that might always show up in the reference docs.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds good.
All right. Yeah, I was looking at that also. So element, yeah, elements just filter in action, huh? Okay. Cool. One other thing, Pratyush, I know you were looking at this. I haven't actually, to be honest, I haven't looked at the PR yet, other than I saw it came in and it made me happy. So thank you. But this,
yeah, this was a straightforward one. It just adds deletion protection on update and force true false on deletion.
perfect. Okay. Okay, so we can handle that. So that's from the update or right through force. Nice. Okay, so then that's not going to change any existing stuff that's out there. It'll be for false by default. Are we just offhand? Are we going to need to tweak permissions here if we have force?
Yeah, I think probably adding
Yeah. Okay.
one more. Yeah, I'll send that. Thanks for pointing that out.
Cool. But other than that, I'm glad it was simple. Nice. All right. I don't have others. Any other issues coming through for anyone else here? All right. We might be able to wrap it. I guess one other that I saw, it came through, the PR came through just looking to fix some issue with check permissions, which seemed worth talking through. There's a couple drive-by action additions in here, which I was like, that kind of, it just caught me off guard at first. I'm like, oh, there's a merge conflict and like new stuff.
Yeah, they've got 2 PRs and they're both targeted from his main branch, and they both have like that unrelated stuff, I think.
So maybe it was just a mix. Okay.
Yeah.
Could have been 2 things open separately and then mushed together. Okay, that's fine.
You got a chance to look at this one.
Yeah, I just looked through because I saw the merge conflicts. I was like, all right, I'll take care of that so I can review it properly. And then it looked like there were stray changes. I'm like, oh no, those are intentional. But yeah, I disassociate for elastic IPs. I thought we already had, but I realized it was only there when you did force true on a release. So I'm like, oh, okay, I can see if you want to disassociate something so you can reuse it and not necessarily release. That seems reasonable. Detaching an ENI also seemed reasonable. The check permissions, the catch that he had there was good. It looked like just when we were doing get evaluations, there were some cases like if a policy got deleted or something, that get evaluations would end up returning an empty tuple or an empty list. And then we would call all on it later, and it would just auto evaluate to true. So we'd have no permission check, but it would accidentally match. So I'm like, oh, good. That seemed good.
Catch.
Yeah, that was good. The only thing, I wanted to tweak that and make sure that we do the early bail, like regardless. There were a couple different branches. I just wanted to move that out so we do it all the time. But other than that, it seemed like the change seemed fine to me. And then the other stuff, yeah, these other actions, there is a question, and people on this call might have opinions of it. There are a couple places where we typically use filter resources when we have to do some kind of implicit filtering, like we only want to act. I think in this case, detaching an ENI, you only want to do it if you've got an attachment there and it's not a primary network interface, but it's an EC2 attachment and you have an instance ID. So it's this multi-attribute thing, which we could do with filter resources. It just makes the auto-generated warning message look kind of gnarly. So what he was doing here is kind of like doing a filter and then making like manually emitting a clearer warning, which seemed cool to me. I just didn't know if we had a better way to handle that kind of case.
I mean, filter resources is it. I mean, it's a generic message, but it's also intended to like also clearly, note that we're implicitly filtering within an action, and therefore resource matches won't match what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. I do tend to like there have been a few cases where I've pushed people. I know you have too, like push people there. But I think sometimes when a policy author is running that and they see the logs, it's like, oh, implicitly filtered this on, and then the expression is like some wacky James Path thing. It's like, oh, all right. So I don't know. I guess it's a judgment call. I don't know if we can do any better there. But I guess that's it. I don't have anything else. Give you all a last call in case anything pressing just popped into your head just now. All right, then go eat a bunch of candy, but not too much candy. Save some for your kids if you have kids. And we'll see you all next time. Thanks, everybody.
Cheers.
Thanks.